Okay, so right now you do have 2 sheets on your desk, but I want you to be looking at this anchor chart. Sorry, I know it's hard to see, but just listen, and then you should be able, you can get it this weekend. And if you want to rewatch the beginning of this video to understand what the anchor chart says, you can. Otherwise, you can just use this on your homework this weekend. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing, we learned about mixed numbers, right? What is a mixed number? On the back, you're going to be writing some definitions. So you can turn it to the back before we look at this anchor chart. So make sure you're on the back of the anchor chart. You're going to be writing these definitions. What is a mixed number? Who remembers from yesterday? Zari, or from Wednesday? Zari.
A mixed number is a number that has a whole number and a fraction.
Good. So, a mixed number is a number with a whole number, part, and a fraction part. Who can give me an example of a mixed number? Carla.
An example of a mixed number is 3 5 thirds.
But that's, okay, that's not how we say that, and we can't have 3 5/3. Zadie?
3 and 5 thirds.
We cannot use this as part of a mixed number. Lena?
5 and 1/2.
5 and 1/2. We never, ever, ever had any fractions where the numerator was larger than the denominator, because this is 5/3. Have we seen any fractions with a larger numerator than denominator in this chapter? No. So we cannot have this, especially these types of fractions do exist, and we're actually going to talk about them in just a second. However, they cannot be part of a mixed number. They cannot be part of a mixed number because a mixed number and this type of fraction actually show the same part. So you cannot have a mixed number where the fraction part has a larger numerator than denominator. When you have a mixed number or a regular fraction, the numerator must always be smaller than the denominator, because there are these things called improper fractions. Improper fractions. We have the suffix the prefix im, which turns the adjective after into the opposite. So if proper means right or correct, improper means not correct. Yes, Mason.
All these values under the mixed number.
Yep, we are defining these. So improper fractions, all they are is a fraction with a larger numerator than denominator. So improper fractions are fractions, not mixed numbers, but fractions with a larger numerator than denominator. So an example would be 5/3. our numerator is larger than our denominator, so 5/3 is an improper fraction. So does everybody understand the difference between mixed numbers and improper fractions? Mixed numbers have a whole number part and a proper fraction part. Improper fractions are fractions with a larger numerator than denominator. They have no whole number part. They just have a larger numerator and a smaller denominator. Now, when we do fractions, we cannot leave an improper fraction that way. We can't. It's improper. Improper is a synonym for incorrect. We do end up with these sometimes, especially when we're doing like addition or subtraction with fractions, which is why I usually teach it in the next the next chapter. But we can't leave it like that as our final answer. So what we have to do is we have to convert these things. Remember, convert means change them. Learn that in either science or the math patterns chapter. But convert means change. Focus. Feet on the ground. When you start to sit up like that, you start to zone out. So I need you to realize that and keep your legs down. Because when you guys get too comfortable, that's when you start to zone out. Okay. You should not be uncomfortable, but you should not be so comfortable that you're at home on the couch. So first, we're going to talk about how to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. Then we're going to talk about how to change improper fractions to mixed numbers. The most important thing to know is how to change improper fractions to mixed numbers, because that's what you're going to have to do as you get older when you work with fractions. But also, we just need to know how to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. So, we have this thing called the magic C. Because what you're doing when you are changing or converting mixed numbers to improper fractions is you're making this little C. Look at step 1. It says, start with the denominator. Our denominator is 2. Step 2 is multiply the denominator times the whole number. So here we have the first part of that C. The denominator 2 times the whole number 1. 2 times 1 is what, class? 2. So we did the first part of the magic C. The denominator 2 times the whole number 1. Step 3 is to add the numerator. So we're going to finish that magic C by adding the numerator. When we multiplied the denominator by the whole number, we got 2. Now we're going to add our numerator 1 to get what, class? 2 plus 1 equals 3. Now, step 4. The answer to our magic C, denominator times whole number plus numerator, is our new numerator. The denominator stays the same. Whatever denominator we started with, that doesn't change. Only the numerator changes. Add this to step 4. The denominator stays the same. Add that to step 4. The denominator stays the same. Whatever our mixed number denominator is, that will be our improper fraction denominator. What you have to remember is how to get the numerator. You start with the denominator, multiply the whole number, add the numerator. Then you get your new numerator. We're going to practice that on our guided and independent practice. So just remember these steps. Step 1, start with the denominator. Step 2, multiply the whole number. Step 3, add the numerator. Step 4, the answer to that magic C is your new numerator. The denominator stays the same. Remember the magic C. We multiply first at the bottom, and then we add at the top. Now we're not adding the whole number plus the numerator. We're adding the answer to our multiplication problem to our numerator. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So there's our new numerator. The denominator does not change. What happens to the denominator when you convert a mixed number to an improper fraction? Carla?
It's
Michaela?
stays the same.
It stays the same. Please don't raise your hand until you have an answer. When you change mixed numbers to improper fractions, the denominator does not change. It stays the same. The numerator changes. That's where you use that magic C. Denominator times whole number. The answer to that plus the numerator becomes your numerator. Now, what about improper fractions to mixed numbers? That's what you're going to be working with more when you start adding and subtracting, multiplying, and maybe even dividing fractions. That's what you're going to be doing more of. So, look at the bottom. It says improper fraction to a mixed number. We have the improper fraction, 13/4. We know it's improper because the numerator is much greater than the denominator. 13 is much bigger than 4. So, step 1, divide the numerator by the denominator. That means the larger number, the numerator, has to go inside the bracket. The smaller number, the denominator, goes outside of the bracket. Then we just divide like normal. 4, our divisor cannot go into 1, so we go to the next place. 4 goes into 13 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. Okay, so we just did step 1. We divided the numerator by the denominator. Now we have a quotient, a divisor, a dividend, and a remainder. What do we do with those things? Well, the next steps tell us what to do. Step 2. The answer, let's say the quotient instead of the answer. The quotient, only the whole number, that means without the remainder, becomes the whole number. So whatever your quotient is now the whole number part of your mixed number. Whatever the quotient is minus the remainder, so whatever's on top of your bracket, becomes your whole number. Remember, quotient is spelled Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T. The quotient without the remainder becomes the whole number. Notice how they have a little W on your anchor chart. That's telling you W for whole number. Step 3, the amount left over, the remainder, is now our numerator. We had a remainder of 1, so our new numerator is 1. Notice how they have a little n next to the remainder telling you that is the numerator. Step 4, the denominator doesn't change. So we see a pattern whenever we're converting mixed numbers and improper fractions. Does the denominator ever change? Nope. It doesn't change when we're converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. The denominator stays the same. It doesn't change when we're converting improper fractions to mixed numbers. Step 4, keep the same denominator from the beginning. So when you are converting mixed numbers to improper fractions or improper fractions to mixed numbers, what happens to the denominator? Mason.
It stays
Nothing. It stays the same. The only thing we have to figure out is the numerator and the whole number if we're converting from improper fractions. Step 5, you can check to make sure the fraction part is in simplest form. We know this fraction part is in simplest form because if the numerator is 1, it's automatically in simplest form. It's a unit fraction. Because whenever you put an answer for a fraction, it must be in simplest form. When we change a fraction in a mixed number to simplest form, the whole number doesn't change. So if we had ended up with this, in simplest form, we know the greatest common factor is going to be 2, because if our numerator is a factor of our denominator, that's automatically the greatest common factor. 3 2/4 in simplest form is 3. This stays the same. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 3 2/4 in simplest form is 3 1/2. So don't forget, step 5, check to make sure it's in simplest form. Use your tips. Like if the numerator is a factor of our denominator, that's the greatest common factor. If your numerator is 1, it's in simplest form. If your numerator and your denominator are both prime, it's in simplest form. Okay. Everybody understand how to use this anchor chart? Zari, what's your question?
So whenever we're doing it, the whole number would be the same.
No, the whole number will change because we don't have a whole number here. We don't have a whole number in this improper fraction. We started with a whole number here, but we ended up without a whole number. So the whole number, no, that is not true. The denominator is the only thing that stays the same. The numerator and the whole number will change. You'll either get rid of a whole number if you're starting with a mixed number and converting to an improper fraction, or you'll figure out what the whole number is if you're converting from an improper fraction to a mixed number. And the numerator, of course, will also change. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at the sheet you have that says, put that to the side because you can use those steps. Make sure if it's underneath your paper, can you see the steps to follow them? No. Look at the page that Mason passed out that says mixed fractions on the top and has a little mouse. Okay, so now we're going to practice. This is both your guided practice and your independent practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the first 3 or 4 together. And then I'm trying to decide if I'm going to let you do the rest for like 10 minutes. And then we'll do the back. And we'll do 3 or 4 together. And then I'll give you the rest of the time to do the back and finish the front if you need to. Or if I want to do 3 or 4 from each side and then give you the rest of the time. I'm trying to decide. I'll figure it out by the time we get there. So, let's read the top. Read in your head while I read out loud. The title is Mixed Fractions. Same thing as mixed numbers. Mixed fractions and mixed numbers are the same thing. Whoever created this just decided they are more comfortable with the term mixed fractions. A mixed fraction or mixed number is a whole number and a proper fraction combined. Has a whole number part, has a fraction part. A proper fraction. That means the numerator is less than the denominator. Yes, Mason, quickly. Yes, but pause for right now. You can get that out in just a minute. Let's read this first. These fractions can also be written as improper fractions. Anytime you have a mixed number, you can write it as an improper fraction. Anytime you have an improper fraction, you can write it as a mixed number. To convert a mixed fraction to an improper fraction, follow the steps. Now these steps are the same. They just use the words in a different order. So, we're going to say multiply the denominator by the whole number. And I know all we're doing is we're flip-flopping those, but it's just a little easier if the steps sound the same each time. So change it so that it says multiply the denominator by the whole number. Ethan, are you paying attention? Sit up, please. On your paper for step 1, next to the mouse, make sure you're on the mixed number side. Change it so it says multiply the denominator by the whole number. I'm going to come around and check that everyone has done that. Now, yes, that does mean the same thing, but it's just easier when we use the same words each time in the same order. So step 1, multiply the denominator by the whole number. Step 2, add that's the answer, to the numerator. 3, then write the result on top of the denominator. Let's add to our step 3. What happens to the denominator? Class.
Does not change.
The denominator does not change. So let's do this example really quick. Example, convert 3 2/5 to an improper fraction. First, we're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. Our denominator is 5. Our whole number is 3. 5 times 3 is what, class?
15.
15. Step 2, add the numerator to that. 15 plus our numerator 2 is what, class?
17.
17. Step 3, 17 is our new numerator, and the denominator does not change. So 3 2/4 converted to an improper fraction is what, class? 17/5. You read it the exact same way. You read the top number, the numerator, then you read the denominator and add the sound to it. 17/5. Now, go ahead and get out a separate sheet of paper. Because we will have to show the work for all of these on that separate sheet. Get out your piece of paper, make sure the holes are on the left, not the right. Make sure the holes are on the left, not the right. Come on, Ethan. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Zari, do you have paper?
Yes.
Okay. So go to your separate sheet of paper, make sure the holes are on the left, and in the big empty area on top, you can write mixed numbers to improper fractions. Oops, I spelled numbers wrong. I forgot the R. At the top, you can write mixed numbers to improper fractions. Mixed numbers to improper fractions. And we're going to start with number 1. Yes, Mason. You can later, but let's go ahead and go to number 1 right now. Number 1 is 5 1/3. So let's go ahead and write 5 1/3 so that we know what numbers we're working with. We don't make a mistake. Step 1, multiply the denominator, which is 3, by the whole number, which is 5. Class, 3 times 5 is
15.
15. Add the numerator to that, which is 1. 15 plus 1 is
16.
16. So 16 is our new what? Mason? Numerator. And Mason, our new denominator is 3. Is it new? No. So that means, class, 5 1/3 is equivalent to
16 thirds.
16
thirds. Do you see how I set it up? Denominator times whole number, answer, plus numerator equals new numerator, denominator stays the same. You see how I showed that work? Is there a whole lot to showing that work? So is there any excuse for not showing that work? No. Okay. Let's do number 2. And then somebody's going to help me with number 3 and 4, and then I have decided we are going to go ahead and go to the back and do that side. And then the rest of the time and some time after lunch, you'll do the rest on your own. Number 2, we have 2 1/2. Oops, sorry. I was looking at number 6. We're doing 2 1/8. Notice how this one goes up and down instead of side to side. I don't like when they do that, but I did not create this. So we're trying to figure out the improper fraction for 2 1/8. Step 1. We start with the denominator, which is what, class? 8. We multiply the whole number, which is what, class?
2.
Step 2. 8 times 2 is what, class?
16.
16. Step 2. We add the numerator, which is what, class?
1.
16 plus 1 is?
17.
Step 3. 17 is now our?
Numerator.
And our denominator is?
8.
8.
So 2 1/8 is equivalent to?
17
thirds.
Sorry, what is 2 1/8 equivalent to?
17 thirds.
Sorry, what is 2 1/8 equivalent to?
17 eighths.
17 eighths. Be careful. Okay, number 3. Colin, you will help me. We're starting with what mixed number, Colin?
3 1/4.
Is that how we say mixed numbers?
3 and 1.
3 1/4. 3 1/4 means this. 3 1/4 means 3/4. 3 1/4 means whole number 3, fraction 1/4. Okay, so step 1, Cullen.
Start with the denominator.
Which is?
4.
And what do we do with it?
You multiply it by 3.
Multiply it by the?
By the whole number.
Which is?
3.
4 times 3 is?
12.
Step 2?
add the numerator
which is
to 1.
12 plus 1 is
13.
step 3.
Then write that down above the numerator.
Not above the numerator. We just found the answer to our magic C problem. Denominator times whole number was 12, plus the numerator was 13. So what's next? Why did we do all that?
To find
Carla?
Then we write the result on top of the denominator.
You told me on top of the numerator.
oh,
So this answer is our new.
numerator.
And what is our denominator?
4.
Why is that our denominator?
Because the denominator never changes.
The denominator never changes. So Cullen, 3 1/4 is equivalent to
13 fourths.
13 fourths. Okay, number 4. Please help me. That's me. Zari. We start with the, oh, I'm sorry, what mixed number do we have on number 4?
3 and 2/9.
3 and 2/9. Okay, what do we do first?
Multiply the whole.
We're using the same order. So we're not multiplying, we're using the same order every time. You were supposed to change this so it no longer said multiply the whole number part. I asked you if you changed it and you said yes. So what do we do first? Come on, sorry. I'm going to move on to somebody else. Okay, Lena, what do we do?
Multiply the denominator by the whole number.
We multiply the denominator, which is
9.
9, by the whole number, which is
3.
9 times 3 is
27.
27. Zari, what do we do next? We multiplied the denominator 9 by the whole number 3 to get 27. What do we do next?
Add that to the numerator.
Add that to the numerator. What's the numerator?
1.
What's the numerator, Zari?
2.
2. Please pay attention so that we can get through this quickly. 27 plus 2 is what, Zari?
29.
29. That answer becomes our
Improper fraction.
nope. 29 is not an improper fraction. 29 is a whole number. But we
Our
did all of
numerator.
this so that 29 could become our
Numerator.
numerator. And what's our denominator?
9.
How do we know that?
Because the denominator never changes.
Because the denominator never changes. So Zari, 3 2/9 is equivalent to
29 ninths.
29 ninths. Okay, so does everybody think they feel good about converting mixed numbers to improper fractions? Okay, let's convert improper fractions to mixed numbers. Go ahead and look at the back. You can finish, you'll finish this later. Okay, So read the sentences under the title to yourself while I read them out loud. An improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator, or the top number, is greater than or equal to the denominator, the bottom number. So that means like 5/5, which is equivalent to 1 whole, would also technically be an improper fraction. The only time a fraction is proper is when the numerator is less than the denominator. These fractions can also be written as mixed numbers. To convert an improper fraction to a mixed number, follow the steps below. Step 1, we don't have to change anything about these. Step 1, divide the numerator by the denominator. Remember, the numerator is going to be bigger, so it's going to go inside the bracket. The denominator will be smaller, so it'll go on the outside of the bracket. Step 2, write down the whole number answer, that's the quotient. The quotient becomes the whole number. Then write down any remainder above the denominator. The remainder becomes the new numerator. What about the denominator? How do we know what the denominator is? Cullen?
It stays the same.
It stays the same. So let's write this little note to ourselves. The quotient, Quotient, becomes the whole number. So the quotient becomes the whole number. The quotient becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the numerator. The quotient becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the numerator. The quotient becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the numerator. So, the example, convert 11/4 to a mixed fraction. Step 1 is to divide. The numerator goes inside the bracket. Let's actually skip this one because they don't really give us enough space. And we will not be dividing this way, where we're dividing to the side and then just guessing at the remainder, because that is what would end up happening. So let's just skip this example. Actually, let's show the work for the example on our separate sheet of paper. So erase number 1 and write example. Mason, if you can't get it, you can pause and get it later. All it says is the quotient becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the numerator. Now, let's go ahead, go to your separate sheet of paper, please, and let's show the work for the example. Please go to your separate sheet of paper and show the work for the example. Please go to your separate sheet of paper and show the work for the example. We're starting with 11/4. We know step 1 is to divide the numerator by the denominator. 4 cannot go into 1, so we go to the next digit. 4 goes into 11 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. So 11 divided by 4 is 2, remainder 3. Step 2 tells us the quotient, the whole number, becomes our whole number. Our quotient is 2, so our whole number is 2. Step 3 tells us that the remainder becomes our numerator. So our remainder of 3 is our new numerator. And we know the denominator never changes. So that means 11/4 is equivalent to 2 3/4. Yes, Colin.
At least they had it right.
They did. And that, I mean, they had this right, but I know if you guys did this, it would just be a guess. Yes, Victoria.
Do you want us to put
You don't have to, because we're just looking for the quotient, which becomes the whole number, and the remainder, which becomes the numerator. The denominator does not change.
But we can forget.
You can if you want to, but you do not have to. Remember, the quotient becomes the whole number, the remainder becomes the numerator, the denominator does not change. Okay, I'm going to erase this and let's do number 1. You can draw a squiggly line under example or just a separator of some sort. And number 1, we have 9/4. Step 1, divide the numerator, the larger number, by the denominator, the smaller number. Class, 4 goes into 9 how many times?
2 times.
Twice, 2 times. Class, 2 times 4 is 8. Class, 9 minus 8 is 1. Our quotient is what, class?
2.
The quotient becomes the
Whole
the
number.
quotient becomes the
Whole number.
not the numerator. I heard somebody say the quotient becomes the numerator. That is not true. We have never said anything like that. The quotient becomes the whole number. The remainder becomes the
Numerator.
numerator. The denominator stays the same. Which means 9/4 as a mixed number is what, class?
2/4.
Class. The 9/4 is equivalent to
2 and 1/4.
2 and 1/4. I still keep hearing people saying 2/4. That is not true. It is also not 2 1/4. It is 2 and 1/4. Okay, I'm going to have to erase each time because this little division problem takes up more space and I can't fit it under there. Today, Miss Seymour had to go to something this morning. She said she should be back in time, but I'm not sure if she will be. So she's just going to come pick you up when it's time. So Zadie, just keep an eye out, but make sure you're still paying attention. Okay, let's move on to number 2. We have, yes, Zadie?
Do you want me to crack it or just leave it?
Just leave it. We have 82/9. Now this isn't going to be as easy as 9/4 to do the division, but it's mostly going to be just using basic facts. Step 1, divide the numerator by the denominator. So our numerator, 82, goes inside our bracket. Our denominator, 9, goes outside. And now we divide. Class, can 9 go into 8? No. Can 9 go into 82?
Yes.
How many times? Aaron? 9 times. This is where your basic facts really come in handy. Class, 9 times 9 is?
81.
Class, 9 times 9 is?
81.
Class, 9 times 9 is?
81.
Please stop saying 82. 9 times 9 is not 82. Please, please, please learn your basic facts. This should have been done last October. And it is ridiculous that it has not been done yet. Class, 82 minus 81 is?
1.
Our whole number, our quotient becomes the?
Whole number.
Our remainder becomes the?
Numerator.
The denominator
Is the same.
stays the same. So class, 82 ninths is equal to,
9 and 1
come on class, 82 ninths is equivalent to
9 and
9 1/9.
9, sorry, it is not 9 1/9. 9 1/9 is 9 ninths. It is 9 and 1/9. This is why it takes us so long to do anything. Because a lot of you do not pay attention to the pattern, and a lot of you do not know what you should have known last September, October. Number 3. Mason, what is our improper fraction on number 3? 31 fifths. Step 1. You can use the divide the numerator by the denominator. So our numerator is 31, and we divide our denominator by our denominator, which is, Mason, can 5 go into 3? What about 31? How many times does 5 go into 31 without going over? 6. Mason, 6 times 5 is? 31 minus 30 is? Our our quotient becomes the, not the numerator. Smith? The quotient becomes the whole number. Mason, the remainder becomes the? It's a pattern. Not the denominator. The remainder becomes the numerator. The denominator stays the same. So 31 fifths is equivalent to 6 and 1/5. Number 4. Lena, what is our improper fraction? 13 thirds. What do we do first? What do we do? What are we doing?
We divide the numerator by the denominator.
We divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay? Lena, can 3 go into 1? Can 3 go into 13?
Yes.
How many times? 4. 4 times 3 is? Gotta know your basic facts. You can't add, it's gonna take a really long time to add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12. But if you know your basic facts, then you know 4 times 3 is, Colin? 12. You've got to know your basic facts. You do not have time to just add one number however many times the other one did. If you did that on your standardized tests, you probably did not finish. Lena, 13 minus 12 is 1. Our quotient becomes the whole number. Our remainder becomes the numerator. The denominator stays the same. So 13 thirds is equivalent to 4 and 1/3. Okay. Keep going. You have until Miss Seymour comes, and depending on what time that is she here? Okay. Then when we come back from recess, we will, you'll have time, we'll go over what you do on the homework first, and then you'll have like 20 minutes to do to finish the independent practice. When you're changing, remember the front is the side that has a 3 on it and the space for the name, which I will put on it when I make copies for you. The back says skills practice 5. For changing mixed numbers to improper fractions, you do it exactly the same way that they did it on here. If you have small, neat handwriting, you can fit it all in the boxes. But for showing work for changing improper fractions to mixed numbers, you will not do it the way they did because you have to do the actual division problem, okay? They did it that sideways way that I said we're not going to do because we don't think as clearly as we should sometimes. So you're going to show the actual division problem. If you have small, neat handwriting, you can fit it here because you aren't going to have to bring down. I'm telling you right now, you won't have to bring down. This is all going to be one-step division, like what we did earlier. So even though you'll have two-digit dividends a lot, it's still just going to be one step. You're going to have a 1-digit whole number. Any questions about homework? Yes, Kingston. Quick. I'll come back to you. Carla.
So when we are doing it and when we do it, the bubbles, do we have to...
Your answer goes in the bubbles. Don't forget, there's an extra instruction, which is where this line comes in, which you'll see. So do what it says, and then your answer goes in the bubble. But if your handwriting is small and neat, you can fit all of your work in the box. If it is not small and neat, you need to use a separate sheet of paper. Yes, Colin.
Did you put the answers in the video?
I retook it.
Okay, good.
Yes, Zari.
I think I was frozen. I had my hand up a while ago, so
Okay.
I didn't have a question anymore.
Okay. Yes, Kingston. I retook the video. I retook the video without the answer showing. Okay, any questions? Go ahead and keep working on your independent practice. I'm going to give you 20 minutes. If you finish independent practice, bless you, you may work on skills practice 3 on your homework. Not 5, but 3. Yes, Mason.
Why not 5?
Because that's the back. And you're only allowed to work on the front at school. I mean at school, like if you finish at school. At home, you have to do both sides. But if you finish your independent practice, you may go ahead and start working on the front of homework. The front is skills practice 3.